We're on. Are you ready? Okay, it's 5:30 and we will call this meeting of the Public Works and Highway Committee to order. Roll call shows all committee members are present. We'll entertain a motion for approval of the August 6th meeting minutes.
Make motion to approve August 6th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Are there any changes or comments on the minutes?
I did want to make one quick comment. I
Hey,
just
Jan.
thought thank you. Under public comment, there's just people's names and there wasn't any sentence next to it, like what were they talking about? Was it trucks, roads, whatever? Could you include that in just update the minutes?
You mean as a general statement, like they talked about the blank, because we don't get
Right.
detailed.
Right,
you know.
we just talked about the blank. All we have is the name and the address.
Okay, so we could say like they talked about the tree planting, or they talked about
Tru-
roads in their
Trucks,
neighborhood, or
roads,
just a line
whatever.
of copy. I
We'd
guess.
appreciate that, just. Yes,
It's
that's- we
been
would-
done differently, practically every committee, in all honesty. On this committee, we have gone from somebody almost taking dictation, on a recorder and putting it in there to just putting general comments in. But yeah, I mean, if you can, you try it and see how it works. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so we shall vote.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous on approval of the minutes. Public comment, I don't see any public here, so we'll presume, unless there's somebody online, we don't have comment. Unfinished business, there is none. New business A, consideration of a budget amendment increasing the 2025 Well 7 Rehabilitation Capital Project by $38,000.
All right, so item A and item B are kind of taken together. So in order to understand the request for item A, I just want to summarize item B a little bit, which is the award of a contract for the Well 7 rehab. The budget was $212,000 and we did get a low bid, a good bid of about $114,000. What has changed is a subsequent review of the casing for Well 7. There's some old footage that was available that we were able to retrieve and view that makes us think that after this rehabilitation, it may be necessary to install a liner in the well. And we have good pricing on liners based on the liner just being installed in well 12. So we want to create room in the budget for the potential installation of a liner. And the reason we're trying to do all this ahead of time is because, like I mentioned last night, actually, Well 7 is the highest producing well in the village. So we want to limit downtime on that well as much as possible. If we don't need the liner or we don't need the additional budget authority, we wouldn't use it. We wouldn't award it to anybody. But this would just be a step that would allow us to move through that process more quickly if in fact after the mechanical and chemical cleaning of Well 7 that it's determined we do need a liner.
So actually, B should be coming before A, correct, on our agenda, but
I think it's in the right order. So we're looking for the budget amendment to add to the project total.
Okay.
So to take it from 212 to whatever that
we
is.
could actually combine these two with a motion if we wanted to. And I think I'll make that recommendation, approval with the extension.
Yeah, and so the last thing I would add is that if you're just doing the math and you're looking at 114,000 and the potential estimate for liner at about 68,000, well, that's under 212. The other part that you don't see is the full design, bid, and construction management also coming out of that budget. So we would be over if we did have to do the liner.
It would be over the 212, you're saying,
Yes.
and we
Yeah.
don't know by how much.
Could do the math. It would be close, but we would be over by $5,000 or $6,000, I think.
So you are asking for approval of the rehab budget here of 38,000
We're looking, yeah, so item A is increasing the project budget from 212 to
Mhm.
250. And then the second item would be awarding the contract
I
to
see, okay.
CTW Corporation for the rehab.
Okay,
And then
we'll
giving
keep them
us the-
separate then.
And then giving us the authority to spend the full budget in the case that we do need a liner. The other new factor in this, and we don't know how long this is going to last, but currently Gale Foods is on the village as well. So they're using a lot of water that wasn't being used before.
Has anybody talked to them to see how long they'll be on our water this time?
Paul has. We don't believe it's a long-term thing. We think they're experiencing conditions similar to what we did with well 7
They're
recently.
comfortable with being able to handle that without any issues?
Yeah.
Okay,
But yeah, again, kind of like I said last night, obviously the more wells we have online, the more comfortable we are. And when we're talking about our highest producing well, the shorter amount of time it can be down.
sure. Okay, so we'll take them separately. We'll just go with this one first. Committee?
I'll move approval to increase GL account 5000000-182,090 by 38,000 to account for a potential installation of liner at well 7.
Second.
Discussion? Jan? Or Bob? I'm sorry.
So there's a chance we may not have to put the liner in, but we're doing this so we don't waste time, basically.
Essentially.
Just get things in place because you don't want this
Yeah.
well to be down.
I'd rather go through like the public approval process than like have to, halfway through the project say, oh, it's an emergency and we have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's better to get it out of the way up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
And-
seems like when we've been rehabbing wells lately, there has been a liner included, right? Not always.
No. It's really just that footage that we're able to review where even back a number of years ago, the condition of the casing led us to believe that, we could uncover the need for the liner in this case. Well 12, the liner was installed for a completely different reason. That was to kind of segregate the two levels of the aquifers. So we didn't want to draw water out of that shallower one. We wanted to go deeper. So that was the purpose the liner served there.
Okay, thanks.
Jan?
And you won't know if you need to line it until you open it up and really,
Yeah, we need to go through the rehab and do the cleaning, and then televise at the end to see what it looks like.
okay. And do we get, will that last for 10 years? Is there some sort of guarantee or,
Longer
on
than
the
me.
work?
Longer than me.
Oh, yeah. We're
Yeah, we would
hoping he
expect it
makes
to last.
next month to our
We
meeting.
would expect it to last 10 years for sure,
Oh,
and
okay.
likely longer. I mean, the original casing is what, 20 some years old, 40?
Oh, my. That's good.
It's a pretty good run.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Now moving on to the second item.
I move approval of awarding the contract to CTW Corporation for the bid amount of $114,060.
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote.
One quick comment for me.
Okay.
If we could also add the authorization to spend that
Oh, for the
budget.
liner?
Yeah, just
If
for the
required.
potential that the liner is installed or needs to be installed.
I was reading under staff recommendation. So yes, you can make that part of my motion.
Okay.
So include the liner if needed.
It's good with the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to item C, report on Tower 1 emergency repair of the riser pipe for discussion.
Yeah, so this is an informational update on the progress with the Tower 1 riser pipe. So we talked a couple of different times about the unique way in which that riser pipe was anchored, and that's kind of causing some of the issues at these joints that were fixed to the riser pipe. And causing the leak. It caused the leak that happened last summer, and it caused the leak that currently exists. So under an emergency condition, we hired Foth to do some preliminary engineering and put some not bid documents, but some documents together, engineering documents, I'll call them, for the purposes of getting quotes to repair this. We did receive the quotes back, and in the documents that Foth prepared, they outlined two different options for repair. One was kind of a spot repair, and another was replacing the entire riser pipe. The way they came back is that there was about $30,000 difference on $100,000. So the spot repair was about 70. The full replacement of the pipe with a new support system for the riser pipe was about $100,000. And we feel that it's appropriate to do that full repair, fix the support system, and then this is something that can, continue on with the tower for years to come. We will, at some point in the next, I don't know, let's say 5 to 7 years, do a rehab on the tower. At that time, we won't have to do the riser pipe.
Is this the only tower that has that issue? The
It
way it's
is.
installed?
Mm-hmm.
Committee, it's for discussion, so Bob?
I would imagine we could end up chasing our tail if we're just going after these spot repairs and it's, the weakest link. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of these joints going up the riser pipe. How many would you estimate, Paul? 4 or 5, and 2 have already leaked now. So, I think it's just a matter of time when we'd see it again,
Kind of
even
an
with a
indicator.
repair. So I think the right call is doing that full repair and replacement of the riser pipe
Yeah,
and adjusting that support system to one that kind of floats and supports the pipe, but doesn't tie it into the structure.
I agree.
Dan, anything?
Yeah, I just had a question. Does this, is this going to commence as soon as possible, or has it?
Yes.
Okay, and then is this the email that we got from Steve Krecklow for the emergency $100,000?
Yes.
Okay, and has the work started yet?
No.
Okay, and will it come out of the general fund?
No. It'll come out of the water utility.
Oh, it will, okay. Those are my questions, thank you.
Is the tower out of commission during this?
Yeah.
It'll have to be drained down. We'll be out of commission. I think we were talking about like a period of a month yesterday in the call. So it will be out of service for a little while to do this.
How do you drain down a tower?
Paul?
I'm serious.
Yeah,
Would
come on
you?
up.
I'm curious. Because, where does the water go? Do we still use it? Does it go to other towers or do we lose it?
That's a great question. So anytime we drain a tower, we try to sell out as much as we can. So we kind of monitor our SCADA system and we watch when the wells turn on and off, and we just let pretty much the tower drain out, and we sell as much water as we can to a safe level. Then the rest just has to be discharged to storm.
Okay. Just thought that was interesting.
And even though Gales is using our water now, and if we have some, God forbid, a major fire, we're still good with enough supply?
We are, and actually one benefit is Tower 4. That's actually designed to reverse flow if the demand were such to go back into our system.
What does that mean? Reverse?
So Tower 4 is on a whole different pressure zone.
Sure.
So it pretty much just feeds that whole northwest quadrant. So if by some happenstance we have to have a low demand on the low discharge side of that high pressure zone, there's a control valve that actually opens up and allows water to flow back into the village,
Nice.
low pressure zone.
It's our new tower.
That happens at the Goldendale Booster Station. So as you're driving north on
Yes.
Goldendale Road, you see that new building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the location of that valve.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Are we good on this topic? We can move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after-
Moving on to the trees. Consideration of street and park tree pruning project to Crawford Tree Landscape Services in amount not to exceed $39,707.45. Interesting.
Yeah, we got very specific there with the dollars and cents, or they did when they submitted their bid. But this is just following through on, what has been laid out in the comprehensive tree plan in terms of, I believe it's a 9-year effort, to go through the village and prune, the urban street trees. There is, in the attachments, uh, an accounting of the total number of trees and the prices. You can see that we did get 2 bids. They were very far apart. And I think what it amounts to from M&M is they're really just not interested in the work, or they've got another job going on. But we have used Crawford in the past. And the price per tree is good based on our historical data as well. You can see the total number of trees and then the total cost. So we feel this is a good bid. We'd like to proceed with awarding to Crawford. I think the big thing I would like to note is that as part of bringing them on board and through the pre-construction process, we would work with them on addressing the issues that we encountered, almost 2 years ago now?
Yeah,
With the, yeah, it was
yeah,
right when I started, so I remember
Yeah.
it pretty well.
I remember it vividly.
Um, and in particular, trying to do this trimming in a symmetrical fashion. I think that was probably the biggest point of contention with residents. And then obviously we would follow the steps regarding communication with residents that we laid out in the comprehensive tree plan as well.
Jan?
Yes, on your map, you have red and green trees. What does that mean? What is red?
Let me see if I can.
At page 5 of 9,
There's all red around the pump station, and then there's
yeah,
green around
and
the
then there's
property.
green,
Couple other
and
red.
then on 6, there's some reds, and 7,
Red means they're new.
and 8. Are those the new guys? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I believe the red are,
Don't touch them.
no,
The opposite.
I believe the red are existing.
Oh,
Because
oh,
the
no.
number of trees that we're planting is pretty high, so it can't be just a couple red
Yeah,
dots.
but look at that number 4, that page 4 is, there's got to be 100 trees on there.
Yeah,
So if you could clarify that, that would be helpful. And then I have another comment, like when were you anticipating starting this?
this would be late fall. So we'd start
Late
late
fall.
fall,
Like November?
yeah, November, December is the ideal time to be doing
Uh,
this. You want the leaves to be down
Right,
um,
right.
in order to do the pruning. So
I'm sorry.
the idea would be November, December and be done really, hopefully, before it snows too much.
Christmas. Oh, snow. Yeah, right. And Christmas, right. So it begs the question, you created the tree committee. Could we just meet in advance of this? It's only a few people.
Created a new committee for the trees.
Oh,
Your phone is listening to you.
I don't even know how to operate that part. Okay.
I mean, I would like to award the contract tonight, but we could certainly meet and discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be open to that.
Okay.
Did you have something?
I'm open to that.
Yeah, I had a question. So we spent a lot of time on this tree comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
I remember I had a lot of input on it.
You did, yes.
That's how we got to know each other. And in what we call the village tree pruning specifications, is that the tree? Is that different than the comprehensive tree plan? Are those different specs, or have we incorporated the details from the comprehensive plan into the specification, which the contractor
Yeah.
bid off of?
The
That's-
latter there. So the comprehensive tree plan does have an appendix that outlines like procedures for pruning.
So how is it, it's not referenced though was it
It's not,
referenced?
but it's not directly referenced in the specifications, but the specifications are based on the
That
comprehensive-
criteria from the comprehensive plan?
Right.
Okay, I want to make sure we put so much effort into that it's being used now and followed. Okay, thank you.
Anything? We have a motion. Now we go. Somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Crawford Tree and Landscape Service to prune all trees as outlined in the documents, not to exceed $39,707.45.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item.
Does this go to the board?
Yeah.
Money. Money.
E,
Right,
Consideration of a service contract. Consideration of a service contract with Great Lakes for stormwater system cleaning and CCTV for $29,975.
So this is part of a budgeted project for 2025. We had 41,000 budgeted. We'd like to start the process of televising the storm sewers in order to get a handle on what condition they're in. We'll likely be doing similar work next year and potentially into years beyond that if necessary. But the idea would be to get our inventory and get the condition of this stuff, and then using that data to allow us to kind of program out replacement cycles and repairs that might need to happen. So we got a couple quotes. Great Lakes was low. There's an exhibit. Well, the exhibit didn't make it in here, or maybe, yeah, it is. The document from Great Lakes with the quote, no, it doesn't. That's my fault, but it generally covers kind of the very middle part of the village with the most infrastructure.
So everything within that square mile?
Basically Mequon
Yeah,
on the
Mequon.
north, Division on the west, Pilgrim on the east, and Donjas Bay on the south, yes.
So everything inside that in there.
Of a certain size. Kevin can come.
Good evening, Kevin Driscoll, village engineer. The storm sewer CCTV that we're looking at doing is bounded by Mequon Road to the north, Pilgrim to the east, Donjas to the south, Division to the west. And it's the larger diameter sewers that we're looking at starting with, and then the road program storm sewers as well. So it wouldn't include every single road and every single storm sewer. Typically those exams might be valid for 5 years. So if the road wasn't on the road program, that CCTV exam may become obsolete by the time we're looking at whether or not that sewer needs work. So trying to inventory the large diameter outfalls and understand the conditions along the Jefferson ditch was part of the driver behind that selection of those sewers.
Is this the first time we televise storm sewers?
The municipality, I haven't found record of storm sewer closed circuit televising, so perhaps.
Yeah, 'cause it's
possible.
always been sanitary, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in very small lengths, we've televised to try to identify an issue. Yeah, but nothing comprehensively, which
So
I think
this-
is long overdue.
Yeah, so this is prompted not because there's issues, but it's like, it's time we need to start the inventories, storm sewer system now also.
Yeah, especially with paving. When the storm sewer system's 25, 50 years old, and we're, planning on paving, we want to make sure we have a good foundation underneath it.
I'm sure all of it's reinforced concrete pipe, I assume.
Predominantly, yep, that's
What's
the
our large-
specification that we have in the development handbook is concrete storm.
How big do we get? Like 36 inch maybe?
Our large diameter is 36 and up to 72.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's huge.
All right. So that we plan on doing this on a yearly basis, just to kind of,
Yeah, we'll have a request in the budget for 2026 and then see how far that gets us and decide on future years. But the idea would be to kind of start with the big stuff, work our way down and ahead of road work.
is Tim still doing the sanitary sewers?
Mhm.
It's a regular program of doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a lot of the storm sewers may have debris in the bottoms of them, so it's hard on the equipment. So that's where it's preferred to keep the sanitary CCTV for the sanitary system as
Sure.
opposed to having it done in-house. So
I think after our flooding, you're gonna see some pretty clean storm sewers.
Or you could see damage.
Yeah.
Or
Can they line a storm sewer like we do with the other sewer lines?
yes,
Okay,
Nice.
Good to know.
I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah.
We had a discussion.
I have been the motion guy tonight.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move approval of a service contract to Great Lakes TV Seal Inc. for the stormwater system cleaning and CCTV for $29,975.
Second.
Further discussion?
And just question, this is a Public Works budgeted item, right? This isn't water or any of the utilities. This is part of the general
Yes.
Public Works, okay.
Yep.
Okay, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to the budget. Review of the recommended Department of Public Works budget, the draft of it, I should say.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen and just kind of scroll through a couple points that I wanted to make. We have the finance director here as well. I think in terms of process, how we're expecting this to work is if there is interest in making a change to the budget, that there's a motion that is supported by the group. And then that motion, if it's successful, will carry on to the committee of the whole. I think the finance director has requested that if there is a motion to, let's say, increase a budget, that the matching decrease should also happen. So I'm going to share my screen and go through some of the things that we looked at. The other thing I would say, well, this is coming up, is this does not include the utility budgets. So we will have time before the committee of the whole meetings to bring the utility budgets and potentially this budget, if there are additional changes, to the October committee. So now it's acting different than last night. Swear. Okay, so we'll just go to the top here. We're in the expense side of the operating budget, and I just highlighted some of the areas. Let me change the view on this so we can see the whole screen. There. So now you can see some of the percent changes over on the far right-hand side. So engineering is a relatively small operating budget. So these percent decreases that I highlighted here are really very small decreases in the budget. We're talking about, $500 here, $250 there. And based on some of the spending history, we feel like we can do those. The contracted services account has a reduction of about 19%. A lot of what that account is used for is kind of a holding place for consultant work that ends up getting billed back to developers in particular. I think our history there is that, especially in the last couple of years, that we can absorb that as well. There is an increase in the DNR NR 216 permitting line, and that's related to Sweetwater. We're anticipating that their costs will go up again this year or next year.
Matt, were you going to start at the buildings and grounds, or isn't that what?
This is the sheet that I pulled up is the same thing as you're looking at, but you just have it in.
Our third page, and there's
Okay,
no number on
fine.
it. Can I ask just an overriding question to both of you, to both Matthews? What are the major significant cuts and changes we have in this budget?
By far the biggest for us was the reduction in our salt purchase for the year. So we're spending, and I can get to that in highway. But if you look here at snow and ice,
Mhm.
we had budgeted 244,000 last year, and this year we're budgeting 190,000. That's about $70,000 less. So for us to make our 5% that was requested out of non-salary budgets, that was 70% of the decrease in the general fund.
We basically got lucky because we bought a lot of salt last year.
We got lucky
Didn't use
because
a lot of it.
we bought a lot of salt. You've heard Scott talk about
Yeah.
like being commodity rich and having a lot of that on hand. So we did, and we had a light winter.
Mhm.
So we didn't use very much salt. So we didn't have to replace very much salt this year. If this continues and we have, let's say we kind of get a double whammy of, Matthew comes to us next year and says, hey, 5% again, and we use a lot of salt this winter, that's really gonna cut pretty deep into this. But because we were able to make that savings this year, it wasn't quite as painful.
Mhm.
There are a few things that got cut, and I can highlight some of those, but that was the biggest difference, and I think Matthew had a few things that he wanted to highlight too.
And don't we use a different salt for the liquid?
Brian?
Yeah.
Brine, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, we use a solar salt for the brine.
And are we increasing that usage?
We're keeping it about the same. That's built into this $190,000.
Yeah, I think the single biggest line that changed for the DPW budget is the salt line, where you see the decrease
there. In addition, if you look at the capital lines that are in the general fund for the 2026 budget, in order to balance it, we had to cut all those lines out. So typically there you'll see smaller capital items, lawnmower replacement, gutter replacements, those types of projects for the 2026 budget. We move them to the capital fund out of the general fund. And we're looking at different strategies of how we're going to fund those projects out of the capital fund. But that was one of the things we had to do in order to balance
budget.
And that was something you mentioned last night, Matthew, in the village board meeting. But let's all be aware that when we approve the capital budget, which is usually at February or January, somewhere in that time frame, that all the things that would normally have been in here, the small capital items that we normally just pay cash for, they're all going to be rolled into borrowing. And so we are going to have to take a sharp pencil to the borrowing this year,
Mhm.
because otherwise it's going to be astronomically off the charts. Let's face it. I haven't even looked at it, but it's a reality.
Yeah, and one of the strategies we're looking at doing is typically the village issues 10-year notes for some of these smaller capital projects, we're looking at, a 3-year note or a 5-year note. So that interest payment, isn't, doesn't sting as bad, and we typically get better interest rates the shorter.
We'll
the
have a plan for that when we
Yep.
get to that point.
Yes.
Okay. But that's why some of this looks so wonderful and balanced, because you don't have a lawnmower in here or a pickup truck.
So this is just a more cost-effective way of handling these costs? Because they're not going away. It's like paying Peter to pay Paul. I mean, I understand to get within the budget, but you're just creating more options.
Correct.
Mhm.
for us.
We have to provide a balanced general fund budget. One of the ways we did that for 2026 was moving some items to the capital budget. There are other options, we could cut in other areas. We could choose not to fund them. Those are some other options, but we wanted to highlight that these are still equipment needs that the village has. But we didn't want to not have a funding option for them.
Well, it saves us a problem here, but it creates more problems on the borrowing end now.
Well, we will have to really strip
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I hate to use that word because that sounds really huge. But we've been through this before, those of us who were on this committee and on the village board in 2008, in 2009, in 2010, when the economy took a dip. And we really had to stop buying stuff. And this may very well be a year when we're gonna have to cut back on buying a lawnmower, buying, I hate to say a plow truck, because we don't want to fall behind as the village grows, but those are all for discussion in the future. Because we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul yet. We're just moving Peter's budget over to Paul's and saying it's your problem later to figure out. So we are going to have to address this, at one point or another. And what I think it shouldn't let us do is we should not stop looking at all the details in this budget between now and the committee of the whole meeting, because we still can take other things out if we feel that we need to.
Yeah, just because we're balanced right now.
Yeah, just balance doesn't mean it's 100% the correct budget by any means.
Right.
Correct. And if there's additional state aid revenues, if we were light on our projections and additional revenues come in, there's opportunities to move some of those smaller projects, back to the general fund and pay cash for them.
Now, of course, some things like gas and oil, I mean, you can't change that. And with inflation, those prices go up, just like they do for us. So some of these things in public works, we don't want to cut the road program. We need to maintain our roads. So I mean, but it's up to you to look at this with me and just see where we can dig
Yeah.
deeper if we need to.
I think the items or the areas where that'll have the biggest impact are in like the smaller equipment purchases and in like buildings projects, which tend to have been, I don't know, underfunded, I guess, in prior years based on some of these budget pressures.
And that's all been placed into capital?
Non-borrowed capital. There's some, all the smaller building projects.
All the smaller building projects have been placed in the capital budget. They've all been stripped out of the general fund budget.
We're going to have our work cut out for us.
Now, there's some decisions, for example, plowing the sidewalks that haven't been made yet that can affect future purchases for mini plows to do that. So I don't know, we're kind of in limbo with that right now. I don't know what you assume, Matt.
Yeah, the way it's in the budget is we're budgeting as if that won't change. If that does change, there are about $150,000 in equipment savings that we can make. So my hope is with everything that transpired in the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, I didn't have time to get the sidewalk update here tonight, but the plan will be to do that in October, and hopefully we can still have that done in time to make that decision for the budget.
Okay.
And as I recall, when we had that discussion at our last session,
Mike,
sorry. As I recall, when we had that discussion last month, we were discussing a transition year.
Right.
So we don't just shock people on December 1st and say, we're not plowing this anymore. You are now responsible. I mean, I would be upset if somebody did that to me. So when you consider there could be a transition here, maybe we have to keep the old equipment working for one more season, but we still can maybe realize that savings.
Yeah, that's what we would do.
and we were going to balance this with the asset management report about all of the pieces of equipment as well.
I'll go through that report and an upcoming item here tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sidetracked,
So,
I'm sorry.
I'm,
No, I was just kind of going through and it was probably going to be pretty boring if I did that. So I'm glad you interjected. But a few other things that I would point out, the highway beautification budget, it's actually that green line that's on your screen right in front of you right now. We are proposing one additional beautification, quote unquote, service for 2026, and that would be flower pots on Mequon Road, similar to what's on Main Street. We feel like we can accommodate the flower purchases themselves in the existing budget, so you'll notice that that's flat. We're not raising it, but we will need to purchase the flower pots, and we will need a little bit of additional labor. So those are reflected in other parts of the budget, but based on the spending history in the highway beautification account, we feel like we can accommodate the additional flower purchase, which would come out of there. This line otherwise is used for a lot of the like typical holiday stuff, the flags, the lights for Christmas and that sort of stuff. And the flower pots that you see around the village as well.
Okay, I have two kind of unusual questions. How are they going to water the flower pots on Mequon without getting killed?
It will be a little trickier, no doubt. We've talked about potentially going up on the median. We've talked about having a trailer vehicle that could provide a little separation and advance warning for the person that is out there. But that would be something we would have to figure out.
Okay, and my second question is why, I don't know when the decision was made before your time, but why did we decide not to have trees in our median on Mequon Road?
mhm.
That was
Beautification.
before my time. And that's another option that's available. I don't know about the median, but there's a number of vacant tree planting sites and there's a number of new sites that we could look at too, potentially the median. I think it's generally easier to maintain for staff if the less there is in the median. So when you're talking about like flower beds and trees in the median, that gets to be a more difficult job for the staff to maintain as well.
I could see flower beds would be a better tree.
Just mowing around it and the leaves and that sort of
Be
thing.
a safety issue.
Well, it depends upon where you plant the tree. You're not going to plant it by a turn.
No, I'm
You know.
talking about, it could be in the middle of the median, but because of the higher speeds, you need more of a clear zone. I don't know, just,
It could be visibility.
They're all
Communities
tree.
do it. Mequon doesn't. It looks beautiful.
after all, we're the tree
Right.
city, aren't we?
Mhm.
We should
We are.
have trees everywhere.
Right. Just on a side note, economic development, we do have a beautification subcommittee. And we've been working with Matt, DPW, on this project. And we were charged by the village president to come up with some ideas. And he suggested not only the using some of these funds in the DPW, but also the beautification project of, putting the seal coating on the village and the library parking lots. That was part of it as well. So we are going to be meeting next week, and this is exactly what's going to be coming up as a discussion, and what else we can possibly do. And trees was suggested by the subcommittee, but we'll have that report next Tuesday. And we are always looking for low cost or no cost, and that's another reason why we wanted to have this tree committee meet.
Good.
Thank you.
I do have one question. I know that this came up and it might not be through the committee yet, but I always thought that flower beds would be much better impact than flower pots on Mequon Road. And,
Beautiful.
that is a pretty low cost thing, just some topsoil. Might be the same cost initially, but after that, it's basically just upkeep.
Yeah, and I think from a staff and maintenance perspective, the pots are easier, so it's kind of a little bit of a balance. There's just debris and weeds and things like that staff have to deal with. The having it contained to a pot and having it be seasonal are received well by staff. The other thing with the beds is that, you know, they look great for 3-4 months out of the year, but then the rest of the year, you know, they're brown and it's kind of looks like a pile of dirt. So that's why we went the direction we did with suggesting the flower pots in the budget. Could that be changed? Certainly.
Well, they're really, these are the hanging ones. These are going to go on the, like,
Yeah, they'll kind of go around the pole.
around the pole.
Yeah.
Right.
I can highlight a few other things in here. The line that I have highlighted now on your screen, highway privatized services, that line has been reduced again. It was reduced last year, and this is the one related to, excuse me, to pond maintenance. And the fountains that are installed in a number of village ponds. We did put one. Well, first off, we reduced this last year with the intent of not putting the fountains out and doing proactive pond maintenance for these decorative ponds. So we're suggesting that we reduce that service again. So this is a pretty substantial reduction in that budget. And then we would truly be in a position where we wouldn't be able to put the decorative like fountain pumps back out. So this is one that
What line item is
residents would certainly notice that.
Oh,
It's the highlighted line, highway privatized services. It doesn't necessarily stand out when you look at it, but that's part of what comes out of that budget.
well, how many fountains would you have to reduce? How many are?
Well, there were 5. And we put one back out this year, even though we had reduced the budget. But what I'm saying is that with this reduction again, we really wouldn't be in a position to put anything back out next year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the fountain have something to do with aeration of the
Yeah,
ponds?
it's not really a fountain, it's an aerator.
One of those
They
is-
were the history on, like in particular, the Wiedenbach
Yes.
Park
Mhm.
pond, is that was installed primarily for aesthetic reasons back when they did the lighting project in the park about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
It may have some tangential benefit of aerating the pond, but it's a natural pond, and there's a number of other factors influencing how the pond looks. So, you know, this is just when we're looking at our budget and trying to make reductions, you know, we're trying to avoid hitting major services. And this is a service that, you know, certainly some people will notice, but isn't, you know, we're not talking about reducing mowing cycles or major things that residents would notice.
So this pretty much, we're not doing anything to the ponds now. We don't have money to do any.
These 5 ponds, yes.
Yes, so they're-
We still have an obligation for this, like maintaining the stormwater aspects
Sure,
of storm ponds.
right. So these will just get overgrown and ponds usually become after a while, I guess.
It's possible.
Because there's no, like you say, got to focus on things that have the bigger impact, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult decision. It certainly, you know, wouldn't be as difficult as saying, you know, we're reducing the mowing cycle in parks or something like that, you know, if the current budget situation, you know, is protracted and goes into future years, we might have to do something like that. But it's still, yeah, it is a service that will be noticed and missed by some people.
The bigger picture is, I mean, yeah, if you change the cycle in the parks, there's a lot more people in the parks versus these ponds. I mean, these ponds are mostly in private property, basically, right? I mean, nobody goes and walks around a pond for scenic reasons or anything like that. So really not unless you live next to a pond, you're not going to really notice this impact.
Yeah, I think, I mean, what we've observed, I guess, from a year of not having them placed out is that one in particular was noticed. And there were some pretty vocal folks in that neighborhood about maintaining that service, but
Which
Uh,
pond was that?
Wiedenbach Park Pond.
It's,
It's that little,
it's the,
Yeah.
yeah,
In
But it
Willow
has-
Creek Heights,
but which one?
just the Willow Creek Heights neighborhood or subdivision.
Yeah, right. And it also has a pier for fishing. Not that the fishing is great, but it does have a pier that the Boy Scouts or
Mhm.
Eagle Scouts built.
what is the, how much would it cost to maintain that one pond?
Yeah,
I mean, we're probably talking about, for like placing the pump and retrieving it in the fall, and some maintenance, maybe $1,000 or $1,500. And then there's the electricity aspect of it too that we pay
What kind
for.
of maintenance are you talking about? We're not putting chemicals in these things, are we?
Some of them we had in the past, but we haven't been doing that recently.
So it's pretty much cutting around it.
Yeah, what happens with Wiedenbach that can be difficult for staff is that the pump moves around. It's not supported very well, so it tends to kind of float up and move around. So it does require attention, a handful of times a year to readjust that.
is our staff putting the pump in?
No, typically that's contracted.
Oh,
I mean, we might help and provide support on those days, but these are contracted services
I
for the
would
most
think
part.
so, right.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that little park in that neighborhood, and it's highly used by those neighbors, if you've ever
Yep.
been down there. And if it's really gotten that far out of hand where people are saying something, I mean, I haven't seen it probably in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But if it is, and if it costs, say, $1,500 to $2,000, my simple mind tells me, you look at your entire budget here and take $50 out of every one of these things and you go fix your pond.
Right,
Because we have
I
to.
agree.
But and need to know what you guys think about that.
I heard all the complaints that where's the fountain? Where's the fountain? That is in District 4. Yeah,
Weigh in, is this worth it or not?
Yeah, I mean, that neighborhood really likes that park.
Mhm.
For that cost, I just don't see cutting it.
So we have to, for anything we add back,
Mhm.
we have to take
This is
out.
An add back.
Yes, it is. Everything is gonna be an add back, everything.
Okay.
So how would it work out? 2,000 divided by however many elements you have on here. You take $30 out of each line. I mean, that's how I would do it, because I don't think $30 is gonna be missed out of all of these line items.
I would maybe suggest looking at trying to find that out of an additional line or two,
Mhm.
instead of,
Taking it out of.
59.
yeah, taking it out of.
Well, if you could find an additional line or 2 or 3, you'd know better than us that what can support this. But I would be in favor of fixing that one pond because that is highly used.
I appreciate that.
Well, I don't know. It's a slippery slope. If we prioritize one pond, I mean,
Well, the others aren't in parks, are they?
Right.
okay, if you're gonna differentiate that way.
This is like a public pond.
It is a park.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the way it is. I wouldn't throw any more money at it.
But this would not put the pump in next year, or the fountain. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially the way the
Cut.
budget is proposed is it would be cut.
Means the pond will get worse over another season.
Right,
Grow algae.
it'd be ugly.
That's the price.
Yeah, this is a natural pond,
Yeah.
so
It's spring fed.
it's not a storm pond.
It's not the tension.
Right.
Well, just for kicks, I'll make a motion to say, let's find 3 budget areas. We'll rely on Matthew to come up with that. Or my idea is to take, $50 out of, 20 items to get to $2,000 and fix this pond.
I'll second.
We know we're not going to be unanimous, but unless there's more discussion, let's vote on it to move it on. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Right.
So it does move on with a 3-1 vote.
Okay.
Matt, question on highway gas and oil, a reduction of $11,000. You're comfortable with that? That's almost a 9% reduction.
Yeah, you'll notice as you look at our budgets that the gas and oil is going through a bit of a transition. So what was happening in the past handful of years is that the highway department was kind of paying for gas for other areas and it wasn't getting allocated out. So now with our new software at the DPW,
Better allocation.
we're able to better reallocate that back into other budgets. So that's one of the reasons that we're able to make that adjustment is
Okay.
we think some of that will go out to parks, out to utilities and so on.
It's probably a problem in a different area.
Public safety. Jan?
I had a thought about the pond thing. Have you ever gone out for RFP on the pond people that you use the service? That's what I call
Is it like swamp people?
It's the pond guy.
Yeah, I mean, if that's ultimately successful, we could, in the budget, we could certainly look at getting some different bids.
It might, you could get the savings right there. I'm just, it's a suggestion.
And the village board may say, we don't want to do it. So that's what, we're just sending things to be considered by the committee of
Right.
the whole.
Okay.
What else you got, Matt?
You'll notice below that privatized services line, the GIS line, that is down significantly. And that's essentially because we have Sharon with us now. And a lot of the changes that we'd been sending out to Rupert and Milky, she's able to conduct. So we don't need that same budget.
That's great.
And actually, that'll probably be one that I'll recommend for removing some from in order to accommodate the pond if that's successful. Solid waste contract, that's a big change in terms of dollars. We've got it highlighted right there, it's in green. But we're anticipating the typical 3% increase, actually 3.6, to accommodate the escalation that's built into the contract and new housing. So,
We got 2 more years on that contract, Matt?
correct.
Waste management?
It's the only one.
Yep.
You're the only game in town,
They're
aren't
the
you?
only game in town. We've
So-
been that a
NFL.
million times.
Everybody else needs to be.
And then as you scroll through these, you'll notice kind of another trend is that there's some increased costs in insurance, there's increased costs in salaries. If you have any questions about that stuff, Matthew could maybe provide a little more insight than I could.
We have no control really over that, so especially the insurance.
Right.
What about salaries?
Didn't we factor in, what did they say at village board, Matt? Wasn't it like 3 to 4%?
3.5,
Yeah.
but what,
Yeah, as part of the recommended budget, we're recommending a 3.5 performance adjustment, which would go into effect after performance reviews are done at the end of the year.
okay. So explain how that works, because you're saying 3.5 for everyone, or is it 3.5 is the best you can get based on your performance?
It's a 3.5 on average. So how it's been done in the past is based on your score. You could get, that's typically done by the support services manager, that scoring. But, it can be up to, some people could get 4%, some people could get, 2.25, and the average is 3.5.
We talking non-union?
Not correct, non-union staff. The union staff got 4% and 3.5% respectively.
And that's
So do
typically, it's a set aside, that
Yeah.
3.5, so we know we have the pool of money for
Correct.
that.
Okay, so is it typical for a municipality to have put aside that flat rate? That's a question.
Yeah, so if, I believe I brought it with me. I believe I printed it out, but maybe I didn't. No, I don't think I did, 'cause I don't see it. Yes, typically municipalities will set aside a certain percentage each year. Every municipality does a little bit differently. Some do a flat, COLA adjustment, some do a performance adjustment, some do a combination of both.
And we do performance, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that is done by the supervisor?
Correct.
Okay, and that gives them latitude to,
Mhm.
go between 1%, 3%, or whatever. above it.
Performers.
Right,
Correct. Yep. So the average is about 3.5%. Some can get more, some can get less.
And-
But each department essentially gets allocated 3.5% of their salaries.
and that's based on the person's goals, the employee's goals,
Performance. Mhm.
performance.
Same
Correct.
thing we do with our village manager, they do with all the employees.
Correct.
And that's,
Thanks for
I know
clarifying
we
that.
talked about this last year too, and the year before, because I always bring it up. What are the surrounding communities doing? And that is right in the, if you want to retain employees, you're going to be in that
Yep.
3 to 4% range.
Yeah, and I have a list of about 15 to 20 municipalities and what they're doing. I thought I printed it out, but I must not have. Some folks do 3% plus a merit, some do 3.5%, some do, 3%. It's a combination of both, and I'd be happy to send that out to folks. It's about 20 municipalities and what they're doing.
I'll take
probably
that.
just have it in my pocket for the committee of the whole, because we wouldn't separate out salaries here, because that's going to be across the board.
Right,
This is a line item every year, though.
Yeah.
correct.
Every-
I
Correct.
understand.
Same.
Just wanted to verify. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I'll take the intel.
And a lot of the DPW staff are union as well. So they negotiated, their own increase. Or will for is it a 2-year contract for DPW? It's just 1 year, right? Yeah.
What's happening at the Bast House this year? I know that's an old building and it always needs a lot of repair. The Wolf Bast House.
Yeah, there hasn't been much happening.
We painted it, what, 2 years ago?
I mean, if you look at this cell right here that I highlighted, the 797, I believe that is actuals for this year. It is, yeah. So,
It was last year, a year ago, we painted it.
yeah, we haven't, we've spent $700 there this year.
So on all the maintenance that has to be done, is there anything that isn't mission critical for the police department or for Village Hall?
That's why in buildings, and I have that kind of front and center right now on the screen, you'll see that we have made reductions kind of across the board in buildings. Especially with PD and fire, because we're anticipating a remodel of the fire station and a new police station. So there are probably things that we can hold off on until those remodels or replacements are in place. So I think we reduced both of those last year and did again this year.
Now, library is still as big as it usually is. That's because of their heating
Age.
and air conditioning system.
Age.
Yep, and the age. So the library and the new DPW are probably the costliest 2 buildings. And we are finding out, just the cost of operating that new DPW. It's a large commercial building with service contracts for HVAC and elevators and all this other stuff that definitely adds up, in addition to the cost of the utilities there, which isn't in this line, but that's also an expense.
And as you bring that up, they had how's the punch list going for that? Are we done with that? Do we have any money left over? Because I would not want to use up that money or throw it into this budget somewhere if we're going to have punch list items that are going to come up 6 months from now. That's once again, hurting ourselves.
We're working our way through the punch list. There are a few items, and we just in the last week sent out kind of our final list to more construction services. This is the stuff we need to get done before we can call it a job. They're also wrapping up bid package 4, and there are some costs coming our way from that work. So we're not quite to the end. Right now, there's about 170,000 left in the
That
contingency
should
for
be
that building.
adequate, correct, in the contingency?
It should be adequate, and depending on what happens with another adjustment to the yard waste facility grading, that's an issue that we're working through right now. You know, I could see that being anywhere from staying about where it is at 170 or going down a little bit to, you know, I don't know, anywhere from 120 to 100.
So you might have a little money left over ultimately,
I think ultimately there will be a little left over. That's the way it's looking right now.
and we'll just hang on to that until we know for sure, rather than,
Yeah, I think in the budget process last year, we turned over about 300,000 of that. Does that sound right?
to help
Yeah.
balance the budget. That's why I'm
Right.
scared that we
Oh.
get through this punch list.
Yeah, so I guess when we get to the end of the DPW building and we know what the balance is, then the board can determine what they want to do with that remaining funding.
Are we still using the old recycling center for that mulch stuff?
Yeah, everything that was stockpiled there remains there.
Okay.
And we're bringing that material over to the new DPW as it's needed. But everything new that's been brought in, we're starting that composting process at the new facility. So there's one big pile already at the new facility.
So,
Go ahead.
so this 170, is that retainage?
It's part of the retainage, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we don't get that back. Once the punch list is completed to our satisfaction, all of that gets turned over to Moore. So that's not money that we can expect to put back into our budget here.
Well, that doesn't sound right to me. Because we did take that 300.
With retainage, that's not,
It's not just retainage. It was a contingency, I'm calling it a contingency fund, but a contingency set of money that we borrowed in addition to the building to cover, you know, unforeseen costs.
okay.
So it's not necessarily retainage. And just to be clear, the only thing that the village board could do with that money is put it towards the debt service to lower the debt service levy. You can't allocate that to another project or to fund some other project. You can only use it to lower the debt service levy, which is what we did in 2025.
That's not a bad thing.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't retainage.
I thought I saw on, you have library in pink and then senior center.
Mhm.
But I thought there was a line item for the proposed upgrading of the, I call it AV, you get TVs, monitors, things like that.
I believe, is that still in the capital?
Oh, it might be on the,
Yeah, because that's one of those smaller dollar item
Yeah.
projects that
Okay.
was moved from
I know I saw.
general fund to capital. And
Okay.
we could look at that capital projects recommended attachment at the end of this and see if it's in there. Okay. Oh, so we're not going to see it listed in here. Okay.
Oh, it's in a different budget.
So it's in a different budget. All right. Just highlighted some accounts and parks that were changing. That parks professional development, that's just related to getting pool certifications for a couple of our staff. So there's not, the one thing I did want to mention here that I have highlighted with this box is that the Parks and Street Tree Fund is showing a reduction of $9,000 right now. So that would fall $9,000 short of covering the services that we talked about in the comprehensive tree plan. So we'd have to look at some way of,
For next year.
for next year,
Yeah.
of reducing tree
trimming.
work, tree trimming, tree
Tree planting.
planting,
Okay.
or consultant services
Mhm.
in order to make up that difference.
And just to add on to that, when Steve and I met with Matt and Scott regarding their budgets, you know, they really emphasized the importance of the tree program. Um, as an effort to make the balanced budget, I cut that down by $9,000. This would be one of the areas where, if we did get additional state aid or additional revenues, this would be an area where we would look to replenish that back to the $125,000. Just knowing how important that plan is for folks.
When will we know, Matt, if we would get additional state aid? In a month or so? Or?
Yeah, roughly early October, we'll typically get those numbers from the state.
Thing to me that we brag about being a tree city, but yet it's one of the items we're cutting.
Well, that happens in a bad year.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know,
And
we
I
brag
would
about
note,
that and then we target that.
Fantastic.
right, I would note that for the 2025 budget, we did increase that by $75,000. So this is significantly higher than it had been for the 2024 budget.
We're kind of trimming it. That's all, just a little trim.
Pruning it.
Pruning,
Um,
pruning.
Yeah, and one thing we talked about is, in our meetings with Matthew and Steve is that, if we're having trouble, funding trees on a year after year basis, at some point it doesn't make sense to plant a whole bunch of new trees if we can't prune them and do proper maintenance. So, I'm hopeful still that we can make that account whole and continue to carry forward with the comprehensive tree plan as it was laid out. But, we'll see how that goes and how state aid comes in.
Well, the tree committee that you put together has 2 professionals on it. So maybe they can come up with a solution about what the ideal number would be.
We can have like Friends of the Library. We have Friends.
We
of
have
the
friends of the
Tree.
trees. Yeah,
And I bet you
Tree
people would
huggers, thank
donate
you.
to plant a tree. I would.
yeah, there you go.
We have had a couple of people since we created the ability to plant a tree in the right of way with a permit. We have had a couple of people take us up on that. So that was interesting, but previously we wouldn't have allowed that. All right, just like garbage, the recycling services for the village is right here. And that's going through the same escalation in the contract as garbage and also accounting for potential new households. The other thing, this is yard waste budget otherwise. We're doing a small reduction in general supplies and expenses. We spent a fair amount of money purchasing the permit stickers that go in people's vehicles for yard waste. And we don't think that we'll need to spend quite that same amount for next year because we've already signed up 4,000-ish folks. And I don't think we'll have 4,000 more, so we can reduce that line a little bit. It'll probably be an every 2-year kind of thing where when we issue those new 2-year permits in 2027, that number will have to go up a little bit. That was kind of everything I wanted to highlight. We'll just pull up this capital.
These flooding costs, expenses, how are we paying for that?
There's really 3 options that the village has before them. Option 1 is FEMA or the state covers those costs on behalf of the village. Option 2 is the village just uses general fund reserves to pay for them. And option 3 is state statute allows municipalities to recover for unreimbursed expenses related to an emergency. So the village could levy for those funds if they chose to. Those would be the 3 options.
That's 3 good options. So.
Better than I thought. I was waiting for a line item in here for that.
Yeah, I think currently it's coming out of reserves until.
Yeah, currently we're using cash on hand to pay for those costs.
What's our reserve balance at this point, Matt? Do you have that or I don't?
I wouldn't have the year to date. I would take the 2024 year end balance. The unreserved or undesignated was about 5.1 million.
5.1, okay.
Correct, which was about 23% of overall expenses. And as you all know, the village aims to be between 15 and 25%.
3% of budget, 23%, okay. Before we move to capital, any other questions about this general fund budget for Public Works? I mean, the way I look at this, it's balanced. I did my little park motion. I can't really think without knowing what the repairs are or what's needed. Specifically, like at Village Hall and the library, I don't know whether I would bump them out or keep them in. Do you guys know specifically? Or is that just a holding, you know you have that many expenses for repairs at these buildings?
Yeah, those repair accounts are largely just based on spending history.
Okay, so we won't touch that. I won't anyway.
Yeah.
There's not much we could say because they balance this. The real thing is when we turn the page here to the capital budget, and that's gonna be nasty.
And just for clarification, could you go back to one of your pages on the current year budget analysis? Yeah, there.
This one?
So how are you, Matthew, how are you coming up with, you have last year's 2025 budget, 2025 revised budget, and then you've got the actual. And when you make any of these changes, what are you calculating? What is your formula? Do you understand what I'm saying? How did you get to the 2026 recommended?
Well, it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. First is you're looking at what we buy out of those accounts. So if you looked at like what we submitted to Steve and Matthew for review, it would have like placeholder items for service contracts and annual expenditures that we have out of those lines. And in some cases, on some lines of the budget, you know that, and that's all that's coming out of the line, so you can request pretty close to what's needed. But there are some accounts like those building accounts where you're just anticipating a certain amount of work, and it's based on the spending history that you've had on that building for a couple of years. And then you can factor in other things that you know, like, well, we're probably going to have a new police building and there's going to be a remodel on the fire building. So you can make decisions about how you fund the budgets based on that type of stuff too.
Because I just observed some of them were, it doesn't work out. I mean, you can't take the actual 2025 actual and do a monthly type, accounting or, divide it by the months and then multiply by 12. It doesn't come out, doesn't always come out.
Yeah.
I'm sure that depends on the life of something or.
Yeah, so here's an example of like some of the notes that we put together when we submit this to administration. But you can see, we know that we're going to spend a certain amount out of this line on crack sealing and mastic and large patching. So we have those budgeted based on the amount that we're anticipating that we're going to do and the cost of the material. Or like if you look at salt, we know how much salt we were going to buy and we know the price of the salt. We make those notes. Here's the cost of the salt for brine. So those numbers are combined and create that budget. So I know in the past, there's been a lot of discussion about like a zero-based budgeting approach. This kind of accomplishes that because you are looking at each line, you're looking at anticipated expenditures, known expenditures because of contracts that you have in place and building it up that way.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that the contracting overall and doing RFPs this year has helped you guys as far as saving money? Just a general question.
I think In particular, on the capital side, it's helped, where for the large consultant-led and design projects, we've certainly been able to save money by introducing some competition through RFPs.
Matt, I have a question for you. When are we going to be faced with the challenge of trimming the capital budgets across the board for all of the village? When you anticipate that date will come? Today?
There's really two options. Each committee can make recommendations to cut from, their oversight budgets, and then that would be voted on at committee of the whole. We could, do a combination of both where, if we have more than one committee of the whole, we dedicate one, or at least, a good chunk of one committee of the whole meeting to reviewing the capital budget, and doing it then.
We usually kind of let that slide into the new year because we don't borrow until.
Yeah, typically we don't borrow until the spring. We like to have a good idea of what projects we're going to fund so folks can go out there and get contracts and things like that.
Okay.
But there's many chances to trim the capital budget just given, the size of the contracts that have to get approved and the funding mechanism. But my recommendation would be, if there are things you see tonight that, you would like pulled, I would make a motion to do that. And that, full discussion will be had at the committee of the whole.
Are we on the capital budgets now, Matt, for me to make a comment? Is that where we're at?
If
Because
there's
my
no
thought-
questions about the operating side, yeah.
Are we done with the operating side? My overall comment on the capital budget is not only is it too high, we can't afford this because this is one department. We don't even have, we're the biggest for capital expenditures. I get that. But that public safety is going to come in with stuff. That's a lot of money. We know we can't cut our road program and we won't, that's just is untouchable. But I guess out of everything I see in here, I kind of wish that we had the correct people in the room who could tell us, unless these are in order. Are these in order of priority? I would like to know, in order of priority, in each category, what are your top three? Because I think it's going to be cut that severely this year, in my opinion.
I think, when it comes to that engineering budget, so the top group of projects, there's a number of those where we have like state agreements in place that we really aren't able to cut if we're going to meet those agreements.
Which ones are those?
So that would be the 275 for the Mequon Road resurface. We have an agreement with the state on that one.
Okay,
Depending on what you do tonight and at the village board next week, the one below that would also be in agreement with the state. That's for the signal
okay.
improvements on County
Get
Line
the
and
funds that match, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the signals, that's the Mequon,
The County Line and
County
Lannon
line and
signal
Lannon,
improvements.
okay.
There is not necessarily a commitment we've made to the state, but we have a bridge repair that's been identified as something that we need to address sooner rather than later. That is budgeted here for the 275.
So that could go this year, it could go next year.
Is that state?
Are we getting funding from anybody for that?
It's possible that we could get funding. There are grant opportunities out there. I think a deadline for one up in October that we'll apply for. But as of right now, we don't have those secured. So
Would
that's a
you
project.
Find out if we did win the grant.
I would have to look at the
End of the year?
website, but it would be very end of the year or early next year.
Okay, that's in keeping with capital budget.
Yeah, and this is one where, if we did receive, if we don't know if we got those grant funds until early next year, we can still budget for it and ultimately, not fund the project if we don't get.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
mean, potentially one thing that we could do is, if there's a number you felt you wanted to meet, that we could come back, I don't know, Matthew, you tell me, but we could come back with recommendations on,
Well, I guess my question is, we don't know what the other departments are coming up with. I'd need to know that because there's no way we're borrowing $3.5 million.
No.
What did we borrow last year? It's like 3.1 or
2025 or 2024?
20 for this current year.
Just for capital projects, I believe it was a little higher this year, might have been closer to 4, mostly due to Division Road.
And the year before that, because it's climbed
3.1.
astronomically in the past 5 years.
Typically, it's 3.1, 3.5 is the overall capital budget.
So I would be looking at something in that same neck of the woods, 3.1, 3.2 overall.
That's likely not possible for the 2026 budget, especially if you're going to do Fire Station 2 renovations, work on a design for a PD building.
What are you thinking it's going to end up being?
I think the total capital budget for 2026, currently is around, I believe, 13 million.
Oh, my gosh. What?
3 of that is for the PD, 6 is for Fire Station 2. You see the 3.5 for PD, for Public Works. And then there'll be equipment or vehicle replacement for the fire department and the police department, which will total
I've got it here.
$650,000,
I
$700,000.
mean, it was part of your presentation last
Have
night,
it.
wasn't it?
What is it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public safety was 9,763,000.
And that's mostly fire, right?
Fire station 6.1, police department design 3 million. Vehicles, which I don't know why we have so many. Usually it's like 3 and all of a sudden
Typically, in the past, we've
100%.
replaced, 2 to 3 a year, just based on the age, and Chief Martin could probably speak better than I can. We're looking to do 5 new vehicles, and one of the turnovers will be paid for by the K-9 unit.
it was 600,000.
Does it say on there, Rick, what that does to the budget as far as tax increase?
No,
That
I don't think that was included, was it?
No.
No, we could do an estimation. It wouldn't have an effect on, the coming year's taxes. It would have an effect on the 2027 tax bill, because we'll borrow in 26 and they'll hit the levy in 27.
Well, it's going to affect everybody,
Right.
whether it's in the next 12 months or the next 24. And I think having that number would be really important.
Yeah, it is.
Because as I look at this, it sounds like, Matthew, you're making a really good argument for what's under engineering for most of that stuff. But then we get down to regular air compressor. Do we need that this year? Do we need no traffic signalized intersection camera this year?
Right.
What out of these things can we cut? Is, I guess, where I'm coming from. And I cannot imagine that Public Works should be coming in with a $3 million milling budget. Not this year. Because we are going to pay for this. I mean, just because we're not doing it in our 2026 taxes, we're setting ourselves up. I don't know how much per $400,000 home.
Yes, I can try and run the calculation based on what, I think the debt service levy impact would be. It'd certainly be several $100,000 a year on the debt service levy. So I can do an estimation on what that would be for, the average home.
It's going to be a tough year.
Is this 9 million everything, or is this just in DPW? Was that, Rick?
Public safety, 9.7
Oh,
million.
9.7.
3.5 in DPW.
Plus the
DPW,
9.7.
3.5, Park and Rec was 100.
120, 130.
Yeah.
They're
Park and
always,
Rec
and that's
library.
what people like the most.
Mhm.
My only comment is that part of Act 10 is levy limits, and because it doesn't match with inflationary things, you borrow more and more every year. That's the only avenue we have.
I know.
And more gets pushed onto capital, and now we're hitting a head here
Mhm.
where it's coming. Plus, we have some pretty major capital improvements that need to happen to some buildings. So I expect that. I'm not saying that that we should fund everything here, because I do believe that we need to look at every item and justify it. But I do think that the borrowing will increase year over year until something changes, and who knows what's going to happen with Act 10. That could be, that could change a lot in the next year.
A lot of people are complaining, but the fact is, if Act 10 changes, that just means we're going to be paying more in taxes
Well, it
on our
means-
general fund.
It means that you can increase the levy
Yeah, which we'd have to
Which
do.
would be increasing taxes, or do you do capital borrowing, which you're gonna increase taxes?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you're gonna do it either way.
Pick your poison.
And you can't hold the line with inflation being what it's been the last couple of years. I mean, prices are going up. And if you don't have the wiggle room to flex with that, you certainly can't add new services and new equipment. That's where we're stuck. It's not a fun place to be.
No, but I think one of the good things is the DPW is more than adequately equipped with all kinds of bays where we can fix our and maintain our equipment, the trucks, any size, small, medium, and large. So that's real, I think that's a real asset. And
Yeah,
we should be, you know, utilizing that.
I guess what I would suggest in terms of moving forward with the capital list is maybe directing us via motion to prioritize the list and rank it, so that could be available for the committee of the whole. That would be one way to do
I
it.
would like that if we could do that. I think they should be prioritized.
That can help you make better decisions about what to do with it too.
Absolutely. In the past,
That motion to prioritize it.
and I'll second it.
What's your criteria? Public safety, for example, I'm looking at.
Because we're gonna ask them the same thing that I hope Public Safety Committee does.
Because I'm looking
That's
at
not the
Maple Road
prioritize.
Bridge repair, which is, I've never heard of. That's a relatively new bridge, and is it like imminent failure?
I mean, something like that.
No, it's not imminent failure, but it's a finding that needs to be addressed. If we, Evan, if you want to come up and,
Was that just over the flooding
no,
thing? Okay, because
No,
then
that's
we
the-
talked about
that's
that.
the division road.
I mean, that's where I have to go on some of this stuff, you know, what is a real need or it could be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, certainly public safety, anything related to that would be a top priority. Obsolete equipment, you know.
Totally obsolete.
Yeah,
Repair
completely obsolete. We would have to, you know, I haven't put much thought into how that ranking would work yet. So it would be a bit of a job, but there would certainly be a pretty broad range of factors that would go into prioritizing that list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I just want to note too, you know, given that, you know, I don't want to speak for future boards, but given that it is likely that capital borrowing will increase over the next few years, that is why we're looking at different bonding strategies.
Right.
To, you know, instead of doing a 10-year note, you know, for maybe some of these smaller things, we do a 3-year note where, you know, you're not paying that high of interest costs, where you'd really like to pay cash for it, but if we can get that down to a 5-year note, 3-year note, you know, a 1-year note, if folks do that, where you're not really paying those interest costs, you're kind of just shifting, you know, where the levy's coming from.
That's a really important thing to present to the committee of the whole, I think, on our first session. And at least, like I say, again, the good news is we don't have to determine capital borrowing before we approve an operating budget. But I think prioritizing, and I think public safety is a key on any of these, and anything where we're getting matching funds, which certainly will help us out, like you had said, Matt. And then beyond that, what can be fixed and repaired for another year or limp along for another year until we see what's going on with the economy?
Yeah,
next year.
as an example, like this enclosed snow blower, the $50,000 there, that could be a savings from changing the sidewalk.
What about the
Maintenance.
sidewalk tractor?
Yeah, you got,
And then the sidewalk tractor would also be, we wouldn't need the sidewalk tractor, we would just need a mower, and we could reduce that by about $100,000 as well. So there's 150,000 there if the board goes in the direction of changing our snow removal policy.
Which I think we're going to go in that direction. I think we have to.
I really want to see the the list of all the equipment that we have. And, you know, again, I feel like we still have a lot of equipment on here. And either we don't have the piece of equipment or it seems it's redundant, to me. But
that's-
I can't, I'm not seeing the list, so I don't know.
Yeah, I
And
can
it is-
explain some of that in the next, well, one of the items tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jan, because this is what I originally asked for I want the inventory of equipment. Tell us why. Like, I remember Jay used to do this with the plow trucks way before your time, but you guys remember Jay. And he would come here and say, this is the oldest plow truck. This is the one we're going to replace because blank. We're going to keep this old one as a spare. I mean, he walked us through to the point where you didn't have any questions.
Yeah,
So
That's
like
right.
these lawnmowers, which I see showing up every year, why again do we need 2 more zero-turn lawnmowers? You know, what's the why behind it? What do we already own? And we need justification of why this is even on the list, for me anyway.
Right. And
that's
we,
part of the 10-year equipment plan that's on the agenda tonight, so I can go through some of creating exactly what was done in the
Okay.
past again.
Mhm.
You have a better understanding of exactly what
Okay.
we own and kind of how we came up with this request.
Should we just kind of like let the capital slide then until we begin to deal with capital? What do you
Yeah,
guys
a
think?
motion to prioritize this. so-
right.
I second
So-
it. But beside that, we just kind of let it slide.
Yeah, we need to see
Yeah.
the prioritization.
Okay, let's vote on that first and see if there's anything else we need to add to that, okay? All right, any more comments on that prioritization? I think we made pretty clear what we need.
Right.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So it's unanimous. And for the most part, then, I think we just let this go for the rest of the evening and we move on to what you have next. I am totally open. If we need a special meeting for Public
That's what I
Works
was gonna say.
2 weeks from now to review this, I am totally fine with that.
Right.
To review the prioritized list?
Yes, and talk about, if we feel we need that, I'm totally open to that. Wednesdays are good for me and appears to be pretty good for all of us.
I guess one of the questions will be when the committee of the whole meetings are scheduled. I don't know if we have those dates yet.
We do not have those dates yet.
Because we do have, an early October Public Works meeting,
I will not be at that. I will be out of the country.
already be out. Okay.
So we're trying to get it in September.
Or,
Yeah.
8th, October 8th.
So
I would recommend a special Public Works Committee meeting, and on the September 15th meeting, perhaps we'll have some recommended dates for the committee of the whole for the board to consider. And at that September 15th board meeting, have the board set those dates. So, staff knows and the board knows, kind of the timeline going forward over the next month.
Yeah, somewhere I thought I saw that the 29th of September was a possibility for a committee of the whole meeting. I don't know why I thought that.
Yes, I believe on my PowerPoint, if the board had chose option 1, I had recommended committee of the whole dates.
Maybe I could at least make that one. And for us, I would recommend that we would maybe potentially meet on the 17th if everybody's available, which is a Wednesday. You're not? Or the 16th?
Not
You go on that whole week?
16, 17, I'm gone.
Okay, then that will push us to like the 23rd.
I'm available.
23rd is what,
That's a Tuesday, or 24th is
23rd
a
works.
Wednesday. I could be available either day.
not Wednesday. I'm not available. 24th.
24th are good for me.
Why don't
23rd
we
is only
tentatively
good.
hold the 23rd as a possible
Okay.
follow-up meeting for this, if that works with everybody?
Yes, please.
23rd works for me. I have a rehearsal dinner the 24th, so 23rd works.
Oh,
Not for my cousin, not for me.
Oh, we thought you were holding
My
it.
wedding's, next budget season's gonna be a little tough. My wedding's next September 26th.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Why
Budget
did you
figured
pick?
out?
What'd you say?
Do you have the budget figured out for your?
I'm planning on it. My fiance works in the Milwaukee County Budget Office, so it's a bad time for her too, but
So that's September 2026?
September 25th of 2026, correct.
Then I'll make-
All right, so yeah, we'll put it on our calendar. Well, invitations usually
Yep.
come out.
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. I'll have the village board table.
Pressures.
Yeah.
Pressures.
And you said October Public Works was the 8th? October Public Works is the 8th?
No, that doesn't sound right.
The first meeting would be the 8th, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So now that's my anniversary.
It's the first. It should be the first.
The first, okay.
Oh, is it the first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday the
Right,
first.
right, the first.
First.
You did say early.
That is early.
That's early.
As early as it can get.
Ah,
So hopefully, let's just kind of hold it for now and see where we go with this.
23rd.
But I definitely think we're gonna need a special meeting before the first step.
And then we'll have we'll
Yeah, I
have
think it'll
stuff
be that.
to review on the first.
I don't think it'll be that bad, I'm saying. Yeah.
Hour max.
I mean, the operating budget, I tend to agree with you. There isn't a whole lot. you know, if you're going to make a change, you're going to take it from somewhere else or you're going to reduce it and move it somewhere else. So,
We're not gonna fix anything in Village Hall. But yeah, I mean, that's how dramatic it's gonna be if we make a change, and we can't really do that. So I think you guys did a really good job presenting a very true budget.
You know, and that's all the credit to Matt and his staff. You know, it's pretty easy for me to put together, you know, a spreadsheet. They're the ones that do all the hard work there. So I appreciate all their work.
I think once we get through the prioritization of what we can live without and what we absolutely need, based first on public safety and money that we're getting from other sources, and then move our way down would be awesome.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've discussed that to death for the evening.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's, where are we moving on to? We're moving on to G. Thank you, Matthew. Consideration of the MMSD work plan for PPI and sanitary sewer relay project in Coons Pleasant View subdivision.
So the,
I apologize. Real quick for the special Public Works meeting, we'll plan on including the utility budgets that night as well.
Okay.
Just because they weren't ready for tonight's meeting, but they will be ready for that meeting.
5:30 again, just like this.
Thank you.
That's the 23rd, right?
23rd September.
all right, so the MMSD work plan, this is what we talked about last time with the PPI project for replacing the private sanitary sewer laterals in the Coon subdivision. And then combining that with a sewer relay, and we'd be looking to do that work in approximately 2028. The project was recommended by Utility Advisory and by Public Works, so we're bringing the actual work plan forward tonight for approval. We do need to get the approval tonight and the village board in a week and a half in order to meet a deadline with MMSD. Now, when we talked last time, there was some hesitation about the water discussion, and I think what I decided to do was to separate the two. So the way the work plan is written indicates that it's possible that we would include water, but I think what I want to do is just bring that forward as a standalone topic in a future meeting to discuss, to potentially be paired with this work as well. And then that allows this to continue on track to meet the MMSD deadline.
Jan?
You did put a line item in the application for possible water. Are you going to leave that in?
We didn't put there might have been an estimate in there. Let me pull up the work plan here. Are you looking at it?
Well, I did look at it. I'll bring it up. It was in remember the application that you had to fill out?
It's attached. In
Yeah, it's attached. I'm looking at where you might have seen that.
Yeah. And then if you keep going.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, I see on item 7, water main extension potential, village design. So that's what I indicated. It does discuss the possibility of a water main, but it doesn't commit us to it. I think by doing this, we're more committed to the sewer relay because that's an important part of the project. The water main would just be taking advantage of already working in that area and kind of completing the loop. You know, the last time I brought up that map that showed kind of the whole of you know, all the different dead ends of the water system.
I
So
thought I saw it repeated about 4 times. Possible water.
Utility work to be determined. Why does
To
MMSD
determine
care about?
if we have the water on there.
I don't think they do particularly care about it. They're more concerned about the sewer, obviously, and that's why I think having the PPI, the private lateral stuff, and the sewer combined makes it a very strong project for them that I think we'll be successful with.
So the mentioning water here isn't going to influence them one way or another. It's just.
I personally don't believe so. Yeah, just maybe a little more information on kind of everything that we'd be dealing with in that project.
I'll entertain a
But-
motion.
move approval of the MMSD work plan for a PPI and sanitary sewer relay project in Coons Pleasant View subdivision.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Mike,
H, consideration of the state municipal financial agreement for signals and ITS standalone program for traffic signal and street light improvements at County Line Road and Appleton Avenue intersection.
So this is committing more capital dollars.
This is the one you mentioned.
This is the one I mentioned, yeah. So this is a 90-10 grant program that we were awarded and were presented with this this funding agreement, where the total project is approximately $700,000, and we'd be responsible for, let me get the exact amount here. Oh, that's the application. So we would be responsible for the $69,444.
I get new signals and lights.
New signals and lights on County Line in Appleton.
That's a deal.
That's a lot of money, isn't it? That's incredible for just one intersection.
Yeah, I mean, these are complicated systems, believe it or not. There's a lot going on there, and they're more and more technical too.
Wow.
and are, along with this, are they going to time all of those?
There's a, I
Is that a
think
different project?
the appropriate answer is this doesn't really relate to the sequencing of lights
Thank you.
that has been discussed. It's an improvement. It would be connected to the same system that's supposed to sequence the lights. But the issue with that lies with WISDOT and a system that they have kind of been on and off again about maintaining for the village.
So they're not interconnected.
They're interconnected, but the software that runs the system is functioning and then not functioning, and supported and then not supported. So
Yeah. Kidding.
Yeah, was there a motion?
Come on, motion man.
We're relying on you.
Okay, motion is here.
That's what I was looking for. I could have relieved you.
Consideration of state and municipal financial agreement for the signals and ITS standalone program for traffic signal and streetlight improvements to County Line and Appleton Avenue intersection.
Is that a motion?
I move.
I will second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to I, presentation on the DPW 10-year equipment plan for discussion only.
for discussion only. So this is kind of what we were talking about during the capital budget. We put together a working group in DPW that consisted of folks from all different parts of the department to really kind of get to the bottom of what do we own, what condition is it in, you know, how frequently is it used, and what does it cost to replace this, and what's the replacement plan? So I'll kind of go through the effort that we went through. So the first thing was getting everything together on one spreadsheet, and this isn't really intended for you to dive into here. But we listed every single piece of equipment that we own and came up with a comprehensive list that identifies the year, make, model, VIN, and or serial number of the equipment, and got the initial odometer reading in January of this year, and put that into a comprehensive sheet that I'll show you in a little bit at the end of this. So we did that inventory. And then we had to group equipment according to how it's used. So there's a categorization that you see on the right-hand side with the bigger circle, and then there's sort of a roll-up group of type of equipment. So they look like they might be the same or contradictory, but the way it works for the operations, kind of the bigger grouping with like that tractors heading made the most sense for us. And then the description on the right was just a little bit more of like how that equipment is used. So for all of our, roughly 200 pieces of equipment, we went through that process. The next step then was assigning a life cycle to the equipment. So every part of the department had slightly different takes on how long should a pickup truck last, or how long should a different piece of equipment last. We went through and standardized all that and modified life cycles for all of the equipment, and then listed that next to the equipment like you see there. So the little snippet that's highlighted is pickup trucks, and we assigned a 15-year life cycle to pickup trucks across the board. What's highlighted here is highway pickup trucks, but it would look the same if it was in the water utility or the sewer utility. And then after we did the life cycle analysis for all the equipment, we researched replacement costs. So we spent a lot of time doing research on what is the 2025 replacement cost for all these pieces of equipment. And then we moved that into a 10-year plan using the life cycle that we adopted to plan out, according to that life cycle, what year would this be replaced in? And then we used the 2025 dollar replacement cost and added inflation to get, our potential budget for those out years. And that's kind of what you see here. This is an example of the 1-ton group of vehicles. And then there were a number of other steps and discussions that happened throughout this process. So there was there were certainly talks about what equipment is needed. Is there equipment that can be auctioned? Can we rent or lease equipment? Does equipment need to be replaced? Can different equipment be purchased that would maybe be more cost effective than another piece of equipment that we own? Or could one piece of equipment replace two pieces of equipment? In which case that might be a purchase that we'd be looking at. And then, the last consideration is, are there areas where we need new or different equipment? So some findings that came out of this is a bigger list than maybe has been reported to you in a while on equipment that can be auctioned. So I've got that displayed here. That's a current value of about $852,000. That's replacement costs, not what it's actually worth right now. But had that been budgeted as a replacement, that's a future savings for the village. As is this line, or this next slide. This is equipment that we own that is serving a purpose right now, but we don't feel needs to be replaced. And the replacement value of that equipment is about $1.2 million. So if you take kind of the equipment that we're getting rid of and the equipment that we're hanging on to but not replacing, there's a fairly significant budget impact on that over the years to come. And then finally, there's a few pieces of equipment that require some additional analysis. The top two lines are the big jetter truck that the sewer utility owns. The village owns two of those pieces of equipment. One has, at least in the most recent cycle, when the sewer utility purchased that, the old piece of equipment in the sewer utility was sold to the highway department and the water utility. And I think, when we get to the next replacement cycle, we should look at, what is the right number of those pieces of equipment to own. Right now, because we do own both, and they're paid for essentially, it makes sense to hang on to them, but that may or may not be the case down the road. There's a jetter truck. This is the same truck. So this is the old one that's currently in highway. So these are kind of a pair of items that you need to consider how to handle that in the future. This backhoe that is in water and wastewater was used more for when the water utility conducted their own excavations, but doesn't as much anymore. It's been used and is used for other purposes now, but unless the water utility changes course in the coming years and conducts more of that excavation work with in-house staff, I think, the village potentially owns other equipment that could accomplish some of those same things. And then there is a large excavator in the highway department where, we could look at potentially different ways of doing the job that piece of equipment does.
How old is that equipment?
That is 2002.
That's not old for something like that, is it?
No, for most of the heavy construction equipment, we assigned a 30-year life cycle. So, that would put, replacement for that excavator out at about 2032. So that is just a quick, and then just kind of how we keep this up to date now. So we've gone through the initial effort of compiling all this data. Basically, I'm going to pull the group together again every year. We're going to add a new year onto the end of the plan, take the old year off the front. We're going to do some spot checks on the replacement costs and adjust those if needed. An example of that could have been in the last few years where there was higher than usual inflation. So the plan going forward would have to be adjusted in those periods. Right now it's built with about 3% inflation. We'll gather another year of odometer or meter data. And then another thing that I'll show you when I pull up the plan is that in some of those cases where, there's some question about how to repair, replace, or not a piece of equipment, we kind of committed ourselves to doing assessments on that equipment a year or two ahead of when it's scheduled for replacement. So we could either move it up sooner for replacement, move it back because it's in generally good condition, or maybe make a different decision about it. So that is the presentation, and then I can pull up the plan here so you get an idea of what it looks like. So this is the highway and parks combined. So you can see we have the equipment, the department or division that it's assigned to, a description of the equipment, year, make, model, and then life cycle replacement cost. And then the replacement gets scheduled out based on that life cycle into these future years, 10 years out. And that is done. So this is attachments. There's a group here for all of the construction equipment that we own.
Why is that one in yellow?
So the yellow mean a couple of different things. It could be the auction items that I mentioned earlier. This one, I believe that's in the list of items that we would retain, but
Okay,
not replace.
that's for your use. Okay.
Yep, but they're notes and indications for us, and the same with these comments here. So, like this one, we own a box van right now, but we probably wouldn't need to buy a van in the future, and we could do the same job with a trailer, which should reduce the replacement cost. So we have a group for tractors, we have a group for skid loaders, excavators, the patrol truck group. So these are the snow plows. We have all that information gathered and replacement cycles planned.
How many snowplow trucks do we have now? Let's just count these as it's.
We have more on hand. We have, here, we'll count them quick. I believe there's,
97 was the oldest?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 2025, we don't have those on hand yet. They're just listed.
Well, they're not even in yet. Those are the ones we pre-ordered.
Yeah, so when they do come in, we will have 23, and through this auction process, we're going to get down to 20 and try to maintain that 20 cycle. What was interesting with patrol trucks is because of some of those years that you mentioned where, you know, equipment was put on hold, like the 2008-ish era, and you can look at some of these dates actually. But well, even more recent, like 2019, we bought 2 trucks. You know, and there is a gap there where in kind of in that early 2008 to 2010 timeframe, you're not seeing any new purchases. Yeah. So what that means is if we just project out based on years and life cycle, you're going to end up with kind of the same situation 20 years from now. So one thing we would want to do is try to smooth this out. So if you know, what this ultimately does is you go down to the bottom here, and for highway and parks, you can look at our projected annual costs for this plan. And you can see there's some years where we're up. You can see there's some years where we're down. But you know, what we would want to do when planning for our like plow truck replacements is trying to avoid these big hitters with $1 million for replacement costs, and try to spread those into years here, like where we're in the, you know, 500, certainly 2030, you know, based on this projection, looks like a light year. And that's where you can kind of move stuff up a year or push it back a year or 2 or whatever to kind of balance that out. But this does give you an idea of about the amount of money, seeing even some of the reductions that we made, that it will take to maintain the fleet over time. You know, it's certainly an expense the village has.
Does it take into account even 5 years from now, the size of the village changing? More streets, more roads?
This doesn't take any of that into account.
Yeah,
This is
that-
the fleet we currently own and operate with.
My other question is on the auction items. I know the value of 824,000, I think you had on there. That is if we had to buy that stuff.
It's a replacement cost.
What do you think we can get for that stuff at auction would be my question. Is that something that we could do yet this year to affect next year's budget?
The plan was to do it this fall. We definitely didn't plan for the last 3 weeks either. So I don't want to necessarily commit to getting it done by this fall, but the idea would be to do it either, let's say, in a window of this fall to early next year, like early spring.
I mean, potentially, when you look at that equipment on that list, are we thinking 200,000 total? Are we thinking?
We would really have to look at auction value and fair market value and try to come to a determination there.
If ever there were a year that was important, I would think it would be this year for next year. I would encourage that moving forward with that as if we possibly can, because that could make the difference between getting something on your wish list for capital items and not.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
So
we can use that, those dollars from any auction to
any-
stay
Yeah,
in the budget, right, Matthew?
it's our money.
Okay.
My comments.
Bob?
Good job, engineer. Did you have help from a financial guy to put this together?
Uh,
No?
It's the asset.
Come on,
manager.
who helped you?
Yeah, was it
It
shared?
was a group that was primarily consisting of, you know, representatives from highway, water, wastewater, and myself. And
You
we,
know, it really is good to see something like this. We've never had this before.
So you built it from scratch. It just makes me wonder, how did we manage this in the past?
well, I think, you know, it's not that this information didn't exist. It just wasn't like in this visible format,
Take a look at it.
right? It was,
Okay.
you know, you have guys with 20 and 30 years of experience, and they work with the fleet, and they kind of have an idea of how things should go and be requested in certain orders.
Yeah,
Um,
the old guys know, right?
Well, you know, that's an important point, though. Our public works employees, I mean, your union employees, not the people that sit in the office, they are critical, not just to our mission, but their knowledge.
Yeah.
Because they are the people who are using their hands every day.
The
I have
instant
nothing but
phone.
respect for them. And pass
Yeah.
along a thanks from us for getting all this work done.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, that group wasn't just a management group either. So we did have representatives from all different parts of the department and different levels in the department as well. So, you know, it was a pretty comprehensive look. And, you know, we made some difficult decisions, I think, in the group. And some of that's reflected in the list that I presented.
Did you have, do you track repairs? You went through it pretty quick. Is there a column where you're going to be tracked? Because that's an indicator of how much more money do we throw into this
Yeah.
piece
Yeah, I
of
think,
equipment?
you know, one of the next steps for this is coming up with a kind of a fleet operations policy that says, you know, takes into account the current, at least like the current book value of a piece of equipment compared to the cost of a potential repair, and making a determination based on a percentage or something if it's a worthwhile repair.
Yeah.
But this kind of is setting the baseline for having the information available that we need to make those decisions. This needs to be built out. You know, we need a couple of years of like usage data, so more odometer readings, more meter readings. And then the one thing that isn't in here that will be added next year, we just got tired of working on this after a while because it did take a long time. But we'll do condition assessments as well. So that'll be a new line in this in 2026 is what is the condition of everything. And then you're not basing, you know, your decisions strictly on a life cycle, on age. There's other factors that are considered in there.
One thing I'd like your input on and your thoughts on is one option to reduce costs is to try to share costs with the budding communities, like these big jets that we have, that big $843 piece of equipment that's used, I don't know how many times, but is there an opportunity to share that cost or share that piece of equipment with Jackson, for example, and thereby defraying some of the cost on these big ticket items? And I know it becomes a priority item between the communities, but I think it's worth looking into.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's certainly an option. We did do in a couple of the different equipment groups, we did some analysis on like rent versus own or lease versus own. And in a lot of cases, you know, I was kind of hopeful that some of that would work out better, but a lot of that didn't really pay off for at least the equipment that we analyzed, where I thought maybe it would have an impact, and it didn't necessarily. But you know, yeah, to your point, Trustee Warren, I think there's certainly an opportunity there.
Especially between Jackson, Richfield, places that don't have that much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you know, you have the tabs for highway, water,
Mhm.
wastewater, blah, blah, blah. So how can you use these pieces of equipment cross-functionally between departments? Is that being done? Could it be more efficient? You know, that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, and that's
Eventually.
you know, exactly like we were talking about the big jetter piece of equipment as an example. The wastewater utility just bought one, and then sold the old one to highway and water. That was a cost that was incurred by the general fund and the water utility. And, you know, when that cycle comes around again, we'd have to ask ourselves, does it make sense for the village to own two of those? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It's, you know, 10 years down the road. So future us will answer that question. But that's a big expensive piece of equipment that, you know, you'd want to ask that question about. And there are pieces of equipment that are shared across divisions now. A lot of it, some of it is formal and some of it is informal. So in cases like this cell I highlighted right here, you know, it's got a H/W. That means it's shared between highway and water. And there's a number of other pieces of equipment that are shared in different ways across different divisions. But informally, it happens all the time. You know, the sewer utility did a great job with the storm response, but had a whole ton of support from the highway department too. Their equipment, their people, but in this case, sharing of equipment is often necessary for different divisions to do the work. So that's happening, and yes, I mean, wherever those opportunities exist, we're trying to make the most of those. So here's the water utility, but it's the same idea. One thing that was interesting about the utilities is when you go out here and look at the water utility, see that over the next 10 years, there's not a bunch there, which is good news. They've gone through a lot of that procurement. And then if you flip over to wastewater, it's, the same. So,
But the problem with sewer and water is things break all the time, whether it's well pumps and
Yeah,
you know,
this is-
that's
this is-
where our
But a
money
lot of
really
the-
goes with water.
this is moving equipment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, it's not an equipment heavy thing.
yep.
But a lot of the water and sewer things we do, we job out. I mean, we use contractors.
Mhm.
Many things.
Yeah, it just depends on the activity, but
Right.
yeah, there are certainly contracted services. So in general, I'd say, the replacement cycle for utilities is generally, pretty favorable to the village, and those equipment groups are generally newer and in better shape and earlier in their life cycle than you're seeing in highway and parks, where you're looking at bigger numbers. Now, there's also substantially more equipment in
Mhm.
highway and parks than there is in the wastewater and water utilities. So that's a factor, but these are always more difficult because this is the general fund stuff.
Well, I think this is great to have this. I really do. Thank you for this report.
Thank you.
Very, very comprehensive, and thank everybody who was involved in it. Director's report, there's nothing here, so I'm assuming you've probably used up all your thunder on this.
I've used up all my thunder on this, and then basically everything else that's happened since I've returned from Hawaii
Lucky you.
a couple weeks ago, dealing with the storm response and debris collection and
Everything.
Wisconsin emergency management and county emergency management reporting. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have time for the director's report, but I promised to bring it back for next time.
All right. Anything else anybody has to talk about tonight, or should we just set our next, I think, why don't we just determine our next meeting date will be that special meeting? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, the 23rd.
Do you want
and I
to keep
will-
the October 1st on the docket?
I will not be here on October 1st. I wanted to make sure that you have quorum because
Okay.
we can't have other committee members sit in anymore. So if
Right.
you think you're not going to have quorum, then let Matt and everybody know that you have to change your date. For right now, we'll say October 1st at 5:30 PM, which is a Wednesday. And I'll just assume you'll have quorum or somebody will deal with it.
Right.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Okay. And let's see, nothing else to talk about. With that, we will close out this meeting at 7:42 PM. Thank you, everyone.